Hey everybody, this lesson is problem solving using distance, rate, and time formulas. I like to call them DIRT formulas because D for distance and R for rate and T for time, so DIRT. Anyways, this is lesson 6.5 in our textbook, and don't forget all your lessons can be found at Mrmathblog.com. And there's our Common Core strand. And so how can we use this strategy? We're going to use a formula in this lesson to solve problems involving distance, rate, and time. Okay, so here's some formulas right here. You're going to hear some noises in the background, you guys. I'm sitting out in the parking lot while my wife and granddaughter are shopping. So I promised them I'd protect them and sit out in the parking lot. So I'm in the car, and you're going to hear some car doors slam and all that stuff. So they're Christmas shopping. Anyway, so here's some formulas, you guys. So distance, so D stands for distance, R stands for rate, and T stands for time. So distance equals rate times time. Here, rate equals the distance divided by time, and here, the time equals the distance divided by the rate. So if we're asking a question where they say, how far is the distance, we're going to use this formula. If they say, how fast is the car going, then we're going to use this one. If they say, how much time will it take, then we'll use this one here. All right, so we got a couple of them here. Here's the first one. So there's Mark in a speedy car right there. Mark drives 225 miles to visit Grandma. He drives at an average speed of 55 miles per hour. Okay, so this miles per hour is our rate right here, okay? And so this is our distance right here. So how long does the trip take? So long means what's the time it's going to take? So we're going to use this formula right here, okay? Because it's asking for the time. All right, so we just slid that up, and so here's our formulas down there. Let's answer some questions here. So what do we need to find? We need to find, it's always right here, how long the trip is going to take. So the amount of time it's going to take. What information are we going to use? Well, we need to use the fact that the 220 miles, the distance that he travels, and the speed that he's going. So we're going to use this distance right here of 220, and the speed is 55 miles per hour. So we're going to use the formula time equals distance divided by rate, because we want to know how long right there, because we need to find the time. And then we'll substitute in D. Our D is going to be the 220, and then we'll substitute in our R. The rate is 55 miles per hour. Okay, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and use this division symbol till we're going to divide right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and set it up and solve the problem. Let's first write the appropriate formula. Okay, so T equals D divided by R. So this is time equals the distance divided by the rate. And then we'll substitute in the values for D and R. So 220 is our distance, 220 miles. So this says miles right here, so this is going to be miles. And then the rate is 55 miles per hour. So per hour means fraction per 1 hour right there. So the 220 goes there, and the 55 goes there. Okay, so remember, once upon a time when you were first introduced to dividing fractions, we kept this number where it was. We made it 22 over 1. And we changed this to a multiplication, and then we flipped that. Okay, so we keep, change, flip. Okay, do you remember that in our prior lessons, you guys? So we'll rewrite the division as a multiplication by multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, so keep this the same, so this will be 22 over 1, or sorry, 220 over 1. Going to change this division to a multiplication and then flip this. So this is going to be 1 over 55 right there, okay? And then let's go ahead, you can go ahead and multiply if you want, 220 times 1 over 1 times 55, and then use division to divide into that. But I like smaller numbers. So if we can think of a number that goes into 55 and 220, since this ends in 5 and this ends in 0, 5 goes into both of those, okay? This one's easy. 5 goes into 55 11 times right there. And then this one, 220, if we treat that as 200 plus 20 right there, and then divide 200 divided by 5. Well, I know 20 divided by 5 is 4, so add another 0. This is going to be 40 right here, and then this is going to be plus 4 right there. Okay, so we'll change this to an 11, and then we'll change this to 40 plus 4, which is 44. Now this is easier. 44 divided by 11, that's easier. That's just 4 right there, okay? So the trip's going to take Mark 4 hours right there, okay? Let's try another one. Whoops, before we do, let's answer this. So explain how we know which formula to use. Okay, so the values that we're trying to find should be the one that's left alone on the other side. So this one said, how long will the trip take right here? So we use this one here. It was 4 hours right here. And so if it ever asked us how far, that would be a distance problem. So we'd use this formula. And then if it asked how fast, that's a rate. How fast are you going? That would be a rate. So we want what the question's asking, we want the letter all by itself on the left-hand side right there. Okay. All right. So here's another one. So Joe's class traveled to the museum on a field trip. The bus traveled at a rate. So here's R at a rate of 65 miles per hour for 2 hours. So there's our time, 2 hours right there. What is the distance the class traveled? Okay, so which formula are we going to use? So what is the distance? We want the one that says D equals the other stuff. So D equals the R times T, so rate times time. Okay, so we're going to use that formula right there and answer some questions. Well, what do we need to find? Well, we need to find the distance that Joe's class traveled. What information are we going to use? We're going to use the fact that the bus traveled at a rate of 50 or 65 miles per hour and for 2 hours long. And so how will we use this? Well, first use the formula D equals R times T, because they're looking for the distance, how far. Okay, what is the distance the class traveled? Because we need to find the distance. So then we'll substitute in 65 miles per hour for the rate and 2 for the hours for the time. This should be the time right here. This should be T right there. Sorry, and then we'll go ahead and then multiply after that. Okay, so here we go. Solve the problem right here. So our formula is distance equals rate times time. So I'll substitute in our rate. So our rate is 65 miles per hour. So per hour means it goes down there. And when we multiply, remember these hours cancel, and then we'll be left with just this miles right here. Okay, so 65 times 2. Again, I'm going to do a little bit of distributive, you guys. 65 is the same as 65 or 60 plus 5. And I know 2 times 6 is 12, so 2 times 60 is 120. 2 times 5 is 10, so 120 plus 10 gives us 130 right there, okay? So the class will travel 130 miles to get to that museum right there, okay? So explain how we could check that our answer by solving the problem in a different way. Well, we know the bus traveled 65 miles for each hour per hour, so since they went for 2 hours, we can just add 65 plus 65, and that'll get us our 2 hours driving time, which is 130 miles altogether right there, okay? What if the bus traveled at a rate of 55 miles per hour for 2.5 hours? How would the distance be affected? All right, well, we'd still do distance equals rate times time, except it would be our rate would be 55 miles per hour, and our time would be 2.5 hours for the per one right there. And again, the hours cancel. We're left in terms of miles. 55 times 2.5 is 137.5 miles instead of the other 130 miles. So the distance would be increased by 7.5 miles, or 7.5 miles. Describe how to find the rate if we were given the distance and the time. Okay, well, if we're given the distance and the time, then we'd use the rate equals distance divided by time, okay? And then we'd substitute those values in, and we would divide the distance by the time and finally get our rate on their answer. Okay, you guys, I hope that lesson makes sense, and take care.